G'day people, I'm Sharon. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing part 2 of my series on pants, and these ones are stretch fabric for an adult, me, and I'm putting an elastic waistband on them again. Mostly it's exactly the same as the previous pair, so I'm not going to show you the stitching, but there are a couple of little things that are different. First, let me talk to you about darts. The pattern I'm using is actually one that is for woven fabrics. I'm using it for stretch fabrics, and I'm just going down about a size in order to get the right size in a stretch fabric. One of the things to remember with darts is that they're not always a V-shaped thing in your pattern that goes from a point to the side or from a point to the waist. They are sometimes built into seams, as they are in shoulders. On the shoulders of our clothing, because our shoulders are not perfectly horizontal, the shoulder seams are on an angle, and that angle is effectively a dart. It's taking fabric out at the shoulder edge and leaving it in at the neck edge. Sometimes that's the right angle to suit your shoulders, and sometimes it's not. I have to make that angle deeper. When you're making pants for an adult, pants or trousers, for women, the patterns will usually come in at the sides towards the waist, and that is also a dart. It's taking out some fabric at the side that would be there if the pattern just went straight up, and it's bringing it in closer to waist size. If that amount where it's come in is something that you can still get things over your hips, then just don't sew in the other darts. Something else to remember is that if your body is bigger at the waist than at the hip, maybe you don't want that bit that's coming in at the waist. Maybe you need it to go straight up so that it can accommodate your tummy. Patterns are not a rule book. They're a starting point. And the more often you use a pattern, the more little adjustments you make to it to make it work for your body. I will be sewing that curve in at the sides, but there will be no other darts that I put into my pants. So I'm going to sew the pants together exactly the same way that I did the little pair of kids' pants. Sewing up the side seams, the inside leg seams, overlock around the bottom, through the crotch seam, and overlock around the top. Then I'm going to attach a separate waistband. 20 minutes of sewing, and I've got these pants together, except I haven't done the hem, so I've only overlocked around the edge, and I need to put this waistband on. You can see here where it curves. That's what I'm talking about. That's a dart that goes from the hips into the waist. I have already checked. I can get into this, no problems. The result of that is that when I'm making my waistband, I have cut it slightly narrower, very slightly narrower than the pants are. You want them to be a little bit smaller, but I'm not talking about much. I'm talking about 1/4 of an inch, 6 millimeters, something like that. I cut it 2 3/4 inches wide. My elastic is 1 inch wide. This has to be 2 times the elastic plus 2 seam allowances, and I usually allow a little bit extra on top of that. I've sewn the band here to make it into a circle, and I've divided that circle into 4. Now I'm going to pin it into the pants. I do apologise for the fact that this is navy blue and hard to see. That's the colour I needed. This is the centre back. I've got a seam here. I'm going to put that on the seam of the centre back. And when I pin it, you remember I told you in my other video, don't pin where the overlocker is going to hit the end of the pin. So I'm stopping that pin quite a long way from the edge. I could try and work out what the quarters on this are, and the back is usually wider than the front, so that would have me putting the quarters a little bit away from these side seams. I don't like to do that. I like to actually put these quarters directly onto the side seams, and that's what I'm going to do. Now that that's pinned and I'm not getting anywhere near the edge, and in fact I will take them out before I get close to them anyway, I will now stitch around the top edge of this. I will match up the top edge of the pants or trousers with the 2 folded edges of the band, and I will start just before the back seam, and I'm going to finish about 5 centimeters away from where I start. So I leave a gap in there because I need a place to put my elastic in. I have now sewn the waistband on. Actually, you can see it there. It's sewn on. But there's this little gap here, and that's where I'm going to put the elastic in. This is a bodkin. I'm going to put the bodkin onto the elastic and tighten it up as much as I can. I put the end of the bodkin into the waistband and I push the bodkin through, grab hold of the end of it, and then pull the fabric back. So you can see there, that's quite tight fitting, that elastic. So it's push the bodkin in, grab the end of it, and then pull the fabric back. To make sure that this end of the elastic doesn't accidentally go all the way through, I'm going to put it down here and put a pin in it. And then when I get back, I can come back to that pin. So I got the elastic through. It was a bit tighter than I would have liked it to have been, but I've got the top edge of the end and the top edge of the beginning, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to zigzag across there to make the elastic into a circle. I have zigzagged that together, and now I need to pull on that, and that will bed the elastic in to the waistband. And now I just need to do a short piece of overlocking along there, or serging along there, to finish off the edge. And the only other thing to be done is turn up the hem. For my own trousers, the fact that there is a seam here at the centre back means that I don't bother putting a tag in them. This was actually probably a little bit narrow. It may have been better for me to have cut it at a 3-inch wide. I think it might have been slightly over 1 inch. So it's a bit difficult for me to get around, but it's finished. They fit me nicely. And there's part 2 of making trousers. It turns out the difference between making these trousers and these trousers is just how the waistband is done and how the elastic is attached. So what's the advantage of doing it with a separate waistband? Well, because the elastic isn't zigzagged in, it's easier to change if you ever need to, if you want to shorten it or it's gone and you need to put another piece in there. So that's the real advantage. Now we need to move on to other parts of pants. See you next time.